Welcome everybody, thank you for joining us for our 2024 EMTB Shootout. We are here at Howler Bike Park in Missouri and excited to be talking to you guys about one of the winners from last year's shootout. It is back to defend its title, and that is the Orbea Wild. Before we get into this bike, we'd like to thank Fox Racing and Schwalbe Tires for helping make this series possible. Without their support, we wouldn't be able here with all the bikes we've got, taking the time to make these videos. So thanks very much to them. The M11 here is roughly the spec we have selected. Rob, why don't you talk to us about this awesome Orbea?
Yeah, so Orbea offers the chance, using their My O program, to fully customize the spec of your bike before you buy it. And when we reached out to ask them to send us a bike to be included in this year's group test, they said, sure thing, tell us what you want based on the My O selection and we'll send it out to you. I took the M11 standard spec that Orbea offers, made a few tweaks here and there to suit our preferences, mainly my preferences, and basically maximize the amount of performance that I think we could get out of the Orbea Wild in this year's group test. So for this $9,997 spec, we've got SRAM's GX Axis T-Type transmission, Shimano XT brakes on there, Fox factory suspensions, so you've got 170mm travel, Fox 38 up front, and the Float X2 shock in the rear, and then a nice 200mm dropper, Orbea's in-house Oakwo wheel brand, providing a nice alloy wheel set there, and then of course we've spec'd it with Schwalbe's Magic Mary tires, as with all the other bikes in our shootout. And yeah.
Obviously, helping drive us up the mountain is the Bosch Performance Line CX drive unit with the smart system integrated into the top tube, and the Bosch 625 power tube battery. With all that travel and power getting us up and down the mountains, the size large Geo is rather impressive for most of our crew. We've actually spent quite a bit of time at Howler Bike Park riding, proper bike park terrain, downhill tracks, etc. Also spent a little bit of time pedaling some of the, flatter, more natural type terrain and features as well. So the size large, we've got a little geo chart that'll flash up here, but if you want to head to the loamwolf.com, we will have a much more in-depth look at all the geo numbers so you can compare this bike to all the others in our shootout. So make sure you head to the loamwolf.com if you want to see that. Or of course you can go to Orbea's website and check out their geo charts there. So.
But it's safe to say, geometry that makes a lot of sense for an enduro bike, and geometry that we like a lot.
For sure, yep. All right, so with that said, let's go head to the dirt and see how this bike performed for our crew and where it stands out and what we liked about it, and maybe what critiques we have as well.
It descends better, it looks better, it does everything better.
How does it smell?
Better, it really feels composed in the chunky stuff, but still has a lot of pop and lightness to move it around on the trail.
Any downfalls?
If you're on an off-camber rock section where...
You shut your mouth. There's no downside to this bike. How did I do? $9,977, I believe.
Certainly pushing the limit.
You brought it just in under the price point, I'd say.
Yeah, well, we had a 10K cap, and I wanted to make sure that this was as fun as it could be.
Is it as fun as it was?
I mean, I don't think there's a bike... there's nothing I would change on this, funnily enough, given that I spec'd it. But I think this is a very good spec for a bike. In terms of price, I think it's okay. I think using that My O program, you're able to put the money really where you want it to be, and in my eyes anyway, the priorities are where I would like them. You get to choose a frame color from quite a few different options. I chose this translucent blue over carbon, which I think is absolutely stunning. Yeah, and then
the fit and finish of the bike is top notch. I would say rivals and on the level with Pivot, who I would say, I mean, it might even be.
From an integration standpoint, I'd say it's even cleaner.
Yep, yeah, I would say. But I'm talking like hardware, just little bits. Charge port cover, the little flap over kind of like that rear linkage area. to kind of block debris and mud and muck, which we are getting a ton of.
That made you happy, right?
Non-stop rainstorms that we were having here.
Thank you so much, Missouri.
But looks aside, performance, it's still the same bike from last year. The performance is there, and I think performance is a good word to describe this bike for me. It is a bike built around performance. I wouldn't go so far as to say it's a bike built for comfort. And what I mean by that is, again, it has been wet, it has been sloppy. We've also spent a fair amount of time riding the Wild in loose, rocky desert terrain. So when riders are looking for traction, whether that's off camber, side hill routes, angled rocks, things of that nature, I found that the front wheel would have a tendency to hit and deflect rather than kind of flex and conform and go over. Similarly, a little bit of I don't want to say it was like a tiring bike like fatigue wise, but it just transmitted more through the bike up into the rider, which over an extended descent or days and days and days of riding like we've been doing could mean a little bit more just tired feeling.
Absolutely, and I'd say the counterpoint to that is that if you're on it, if you're attacking, this bike lets you do things on the trail that I don't think I can do on any other bike on test. The most ambitious high lines, pull in for gaps that, on other bikes, they maybe have too little support in the suspension platform, they're too heavy overall, they don't have enough reserves in the suspension to take the impact. This bike just lets me look at a trail a little bit differently almost to other bikes, and from the second that I hop onto one of these, I'm just full gas, like go, 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 charging, attacking, and I think it's really special in that respect.
Yeah, I would agree with you for sure. Like if I knew the clock was ticking, right, and it's a race weekend, this thing is an absolute like tool to have for sure. And I would say like this is the tip of the spear bike, right? And being that it is the tip of the spear, it is sharp, and not everybody always wants to handle that weapon day in and day out for your casual weekly rides. Some do, and some may not.
So I'm on the not side of things. I very much so prefer a bike that is more compliant, comfortable, and not as stiff, and doesn't require you to be just charging hard nonstop every single day that you want to take it out. That said, it is a fine specimen of a machine. The Bosch Performance CX gets you up the hill super fast. Orbea's integrations are extremely clean. The pull-out tab for the battery cut or the charge port is one of the best.
It does sit in really nicely. I would say that this one has been maybe a bit sticky.
Yeah, it's been hard to pull out sometimes and to get back in.
Kind of a flip side thing. I feel like it seals the port the best out of anything.
Don't have to worry about a rubber grommet coming ripping off or things like that.
Yeah, I think to echo that talk of speed and efficiency up the hill, I think the geometry on this for climbing fast at least is as good as it gets. It's just, I don't feel like the front end ever really wants to wander. There's plenty of weight on it from the fairly well balanced mid-length rear end and quite low bottom bracket. The seating position for me, being a taller rider, is it's very comfortable and really nice to see.
Rob and Nick also really likes this bike. Rob is 220 pounds, Sean, you're 160. I'm 180, kind of right in the middle there. Rob's obviously a very aggressive and solid and strong rider and lives in Scotland where he's not used to traction, right? And sliding around and kind of fighting for it in wet roots and rocks. So, I think it's a prime example that you can't just pick one award for one bike because it's not the best recommendation for everybody. And while that, this might be a really great dream bike for you, for someone like Sean or myself, if I don't sleep good because my little baby's been up all night or I'm stressed at work and my mind's not thinking about, oh, I gotta fight and stay on this front end to make this off-camber bit of section, and I just wanna go out for a casual ride, I think there's bikes that are gonna be a little bit more well-rounded, more comfortable, more forgiving for riders to do that. But I do not disagree that if I was going out to a race weekend and I had that mindset on, this probably would be one of the first bikes that I'd pull out of our stable back home at the shop. So yeah, a stiffer suspension platform yields itself great in terms of pedaling efficiency, pumping, getting every bit of ounce of speed out of the terrain, jumping. I mean, it's a race bike, as crazy as that might sound for some of you guys about with e-bikes, but this thing is built to go fast, be ridden hard, and it will push you to make it go faster for sure. So that is it, guys, the Orbea Wild. Of course, please stay tuned to see where this bike stacks up in our 14 bike shootout from Howler Bike Park here in Missouri. Thanks again to Schwalbe Tires and Fox Racing for the support and helping make this series possible, outfitting all the bikes with these Magic Mary tires and some awesome protective gear, which you guys have done a great job testing out this week. And thanks again, guys. We'll see you out on the trails and enjoy the rest of the series.